The sound came again from behind the oxygen recyclers, a soft whimper that Sam Rivers had been hearing for 3 days. At first he thought it was just the old machinery complaining, but machines didn't cry. They groaned, they wheezed, they sometimes screamed when they broke, but they never cried like something in pain. Sam put down his plasma torch and wiped grease from his hands. The mining station Haven's Rest operated on a skeleton crew of 12 humans, and as the only mechanic, he kept the whole place running. Every pipe, every air filter, every gravity generator depended on him. But right now something else needed his attention. He crawled behind the recycler units following the sound. The space was tight, meant for maintenance access, not exploration. His flashlight beam swept across pipes and cables until it caught something that made him freeze. A pair of golden eyes stared back at him, wide with fear and pain. The creature pressed itself against the far wall, trying to make itself smaller. Sam had seen pictures of dragons in the data files, but never one this young. It was no bigger than a house cat, covered in scales that shifted from deep blue to silver in the light. One wing hung at an impossible angle, twisted metal fragments protruding from torn membrane. "Easy there, little one," Sam whispered, keeping his voice soft. "I'm not going to hurt you." The baby dragon tried to back away further, but had nowhere to go. Sam could see the fear in its eyes, but also something else. Trust, maybe, or just exhaustion. The creature had been hiding here for days, probably since the cargo ship crash last week. The wreckage had been cleared, but no one thought to look for survivors this small. Sam slowly reached out his hand. The dragon flinched but didn't run. When his fingers touched the tiny head, the creature made a sound like a purr mixed with a sigh. It was warm, warmer than anything Sam had ever touched, and he could feel it trembling. "What happened to you, little friend?" He examined the damaged wing carefully. The metal fragments came from ship plating, probably torn loose during the crash. They had sliced through the wing membrane and embedded in the bone. The damage was severe, the kind that would never heal properly on its own. Most people would have called it hopeless. The station medic, Doc Williams, would have recommended putting the creature out of its misery. But Sam Rivers had spent his entire life fixing things that other people gave up on. His father had been a mechanic, his grandfather too. They had taught him that there was always a way to make something work, even if it meant starting over from scratch. He gently scooped up the dragon, surprised by how light it was. The creature didn't fight him, just pressed its small head against his chest. Sam could feel its heartbeat fast and fluttery like a bird's. Back in his workshop, Sam laid the dragon on a soft cloth and examined the wing under proper lighting. The damage was worse than he had thought. 3 metal fragments had shattered the wing bone in multiple places. The membrane was torn beyond repair. Any normal treatment would leave the dragon permanently grounded. But Sam had an idea. He spent the next hour carefully removing the metal fragments, cleaning the wounds, and stabilizing the bone. The dragon stayed conscious through it all, watching him with those golden eyes. It seemed to understand that he was trying to help. Then came the hard part. Sam pulled out his design tablet and started sketching. He had built prosthetics before, mostly for mining equipment, but never for a living creature. The wing would need to be flexible, lightweight, and strong enough to support flight. It would also need to interface with the dragon's nervous system to allow natural control. He worked through the night, fabricating components from titanium alloy and biocompatible polymers. The framework took shape slowly, a delicate lattice of metal and synthetic membrane that mimicked the dragon's natural wing structure. The real challenge was the neural interface, tiny sensors that would read the dragon's nerve impulses and translate them into mechanical movement. The dragon watched him work, occasionally making soft chirping sounds that Sam chose to interpret as encouragement. Around dawn, Doc Williams stopped by to check on him and froze when he saw what Sam was doing. "Sam, what in blazes is that?" "Baby dragon. Found her behind the recyclers. Someone needs to fix her wing." Doc Williams shook his head. "Sam, that's not a broken machine. That's a living creature. You can't just weld it back together." "Maybe not weld," Sam said, holding up the mechanical wing, "but I can give her something better." The installation took another 6 hours. Sam worked with the precision of a surgeon and the patience of a saint, connecting the mechanical wing to the dragon's existing bone structure and nervous system. The little creature stayed perfectly still, as if it understood how important this was. When Sam finally stepped back, the dragon had two wings again, one natural, one mechanical, but both connected to the same small body. Sam had designed the prosthetic to match the other wing exactly, down to the color of the membrane. "Try it, little one," Sam whispered. The dragon stood slowly, testing the weight of the new wing. Then, with a movement so natural it took Sam's breath away, it spread both wings wide. The mechanical wing moved in perfect synchronization with the natural one, responding to the dragon's thoughts as if it had always been there. The dragon looked at Sam, then at its wings, then back at Sam. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the dragon launched itself into the air, its wings beating in perfect rhythm. It flew in circles around the workshop, chirping with joy, performing loops and dives that should have been impossible for something so small. When it finally landed on Sam's shoulder, it nuzzled against his cheek. The gesture was unmistakably grateful, and Sam felt something warm spread through his chest. He had fixed a lot of broken things in his life, but this was the first time one of them had thanked him. He decided to call her Ember, after the way her scales caught the light like glowing coals. She seemed to approve of the name, settling comfortably on his shoulder as he returned to his regular work. The mining station needed its mechanic, and now he had a tiny assistant with wings of steel and a heart full of gratitude. Neither of them knew that their story was just beginning. Ember had been living in Sam's workshop for 2 weeks when the first trader arrived. The merchant ship dropped out of hyperspace with the usual flash of displaced energy, but instead of heading straight for the docking bay, it circled the station 3 times. Sam was calibrating a water purifier when his communicator crackled to life. "Haven's Rest, this is Merchant Vessel Blue Horizon. We're requesting permission to dock and, well, we'd like to see the dragon." "The what now?" came the confused voice of Station Commander Helen Price from the control room. "The dragon with the metal wing. The one your mechanic fixed. Half the trade routes are talking about it." Sam looked up from his work to find Ember perched on a tool rack, preening her mechanical wing with the same care she gave her natural one. The little dragon had adapted to her prosthetic so completely that Sam sometimes forgot it wasn't original equipment. She flew better than most birds, her artificial wing responding to every thought and emotion. "Sam," Helen's voice came over the intercom. "Did you really fix a dragon's wing?" "Just did what needed doing," Sam replied. But Ember chose that moment to perform a perfect barrel roll around the workshop ceiling. Her metal wing gleaming under the lights. The trader, a gruff man named Pete from the outer colonies, spent an hour in the workshop just watching Ember fly. He had dealt with dragons before, he said, but never seen anything like this. In most of the galaxy, dragon medicine was primitive at best. When a dragon lost a wing, that was the end of their flying days. "You know what this means, don't you?" Pete asked Sam as Ember landed gracefully on the workbench. "Dragons are the rulers of 300 worlds. They control more trade routes than the rest of the galaxy combined. And you just did something their best doctor said was impossible." Sam shrugged. "Wing was broken, fixed it. Not complicated." But Pete was already thinking like a businessman. "Do you mind if I take some pictures?" "Just for the record." Sam didn't see the harm in it. Ember seemed to enjoy the attention, posing with her wings spread wide. The mechanical wing moved with fluid grace, its synthetic membrane catching the light just like the natural one. Pete left the next morning, but he wasn't the last visitor. Within days, ships were arriving at Haven's Rest just to see the dragon with the steel wing. Pilots, merchants, even a few minor diplomats stopped by, all wanting to witness what they called the miracle of Haven's Rest. Ember handled the attention with dignity that seemed far beyond her weeks of age. She would perform aerial displays for visitors, showing off maneuvers that demonstrated the perfect integration of biological and mechanical flight systems. The synthetic wing never missed a beat, never lagged behind its natural counterpart. Sam found himself explaining the same things over and over: how he had fabricated the wing from standard materials, how the neural interface worked, how Ember had adapted to the prosthetic almost instantly. Most visitors listened with amazement, some with skepticism, but all left convinced they had seen something extraordinary. The real change came when a news reporter from the Galactic Broadcasting Network arrived. She was a sharp-eyed woman named Ruth, who specialized in unusual stories from the frontier. She spent 3 days documenting Ember's story, interviewing Sam and recording hours of flight footage. "This isn't just about one dragon," Ruth told Sam as she prepared to leave. "This represents a fundamental breakthrough in interspecies medicine." "Do you understand the implications?" Sam was more interested in the implications for his work schedule. The constant stream of visitors was making it hard to maintain the station's systems. But Ruth's broadcast changed everything. The story went out across the galactic network with the headline, "Human Mechanic Performs Medical Miracle." It showed Ember flying, her mechanical wing moving in perfect harmony with her natural one. It included interviews with dragon medical experts who admitted they had never seen anything like it. Most importantly, it reached every corner of the galaxy, including the heart of the Draconic Imperium. Within a week of the broadcast, Sam's workshop was flooded with communication requests. Medical research facilities wanted to study his techniques. Engineering schools requested blueprints. 3 different pharmaceutical companies offered to buy the rights to his neural interface technology. Sam declined them all. He was a mechanic, not a businessman. His job was keeping Haven's Rest running, and that job was getting harder with all the attention. But some messages were harder to ignore. A research hospital on New Geneva wanted to send a team to study Ember. A dragon medical facility on scales offered Sam a position as chief prosthetics designer. Most disturbing of all, several military organizations inquired about weaponizing his technology. "I don't understand what the fuss is about," Sam told Helen as they watched another ship dock. "I just fixed a broken wing." "Sam, you did something that the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy couldn't do," Helen replied. "You gave a dragon back her sky. Do you have any idea how important flight is to dragon culture?" Sam didn't really. He knew dragons ruled their empire from the sky, that their whole society was built around aerial superiority. But to him, flight was just a function like walking or swimming. If something was broken, you fixed it. Ember seemed to understand the gravity of the situation better than he did. She had started sleeping in the workshop, as if standing guard over Sam's equipment. When visitors became too pushy or demanding, she would position herself between them and Sam, her golden eyes flashing with protective fire. The messages kept coming. Offers, threats, pleas for help. Sam tried to ignore them, but the volume was overwhelming. Every day brought new proof that his simple act of kindness had rippled out across the galaxy in ways he never intended. The most persistent messages came from the Draconic Imperium itself. Formal requests for information, polite inquiries about Sam's availability, increasingly urgent communications from dragon medical authorities. Sam deleted them all, but they kept coming. "They're not going to give up," Helen warned him. "Dragons don't forget debts, Sam. You saved one of their children. They'll want to repay that." Sam looked at Ember, who was practicing complex aerial maneuvers around the workshop ceiling. Her mechanical wing moved with such natural grace that it was easy to forget it was artificial. She had adapted completely, turning her prosthetic from a replacement into an enhancement. "Maybe," Sam said quietly, "but right now I've got work to do." He returned to his repairs, trying to ignore the growing certainty that his quiet life on Haven's Rest was about to change forever. The alarm started screaming at exactly 0900 station time. Sam looked up from the hydroponic system he was repairing to see Ember diving for cover behind a tool cabinet, her scales shifting to deep purple with fear. Dragons had excellent instincts for danger, and if Ember was hiding, something serious was happening. "All personnel to emergency stations," Helen's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with barely controlled panic. "We have an unscheduled arrival. Large vessel, unknown configuration." Sam wiped his hands and headed for the nearest viewport. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. A ship was emerging from hyperspace, but calling it a ship was like calling a hurricane a breeze. The vessel was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Haven's Rest itself. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to absorb light, covered in scales that shifted and moved like living skin. "Dragon ship," he murmured. Ember poked her head out from behind the cabinet, chirping nervously. The communication channels erupted with chatter as the massive vessel positioned itself near the station. Sam had never seen anything like it outside of history documentaries. Imperial draconic dreadnoughts were legendary, built for conquest and capable of reducing planets to ash. One hadn't been seen in human space for over 50 years. "Haven's Rest," a voice spoke over the communication system. rich and deep with unmistakable authority. "This is Imperial Dreadnought Skyfire. I am Empress Lyra of the Draconic Imperium. I request immediate audience with the human mechanic Samuel Rivers." The workshop fell silent except for the hum of ventilation systems. Sam stared at the speaker, wondering if he had heard correctly. The Empress of the Draconic Imperium, ruler of 300 worlds, was asking to speak with him. "Sam?" Helen's voice came through his personal communicator, barely above a whisper. "Please tell me you know why the most powerful being in the galaxy wants to talk to you." Sam looked at Ember, who had emerged from hiding and was now perched on his shoulder, her eyes fixed on the viewport. The little dragon was making soft trilling sounds, almost like she was trying to communicate with the massive ship outside. "Haven's Rest. I await your response," the Empress spoke again, and there was steel beneath the courtesy. Sam picked up his communicator. "This is Sam Rivers. I'm in Workshop 7 if you want to talk." Helen's strangled gasp came through the comm, followed by rapid-fire protests about proper diplomatic protocol. But the Empress simply said, "I will be there shortly." 20 minutes later, the workshop's main door dilated with a soft hiss. Sam had seen pictures of adult dragons, but nothing had prepared him for the reality. Empress Lyra was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. She stood nearly 3 meters tall, her scales a deep emerald that shifted to gold in the light. Her neck was long and graceful, her head crowned with natural spikes that looked like a jeweled coronet. But what drew Sam's attention were her wings. The left wing was perfect, powerful and elegant, with membrane that seemed to glow with its own inner light. The right wing was a ruin of scar tissue and malformed bone. Ancient burns had twisted the membrane, and the wing bones had healed wrong, leaving the appendage functional but clearly painful and limited. "Your Majesty," Sam said, because it seemed like the thing to do. The Empress lowered her great head to study him. Her eyes were the color of molten gold, ancient and intelligent beyond human understanding. "You are not what I expected, Samuel Rivers. Most folks just call me Sam." A sound that might have been laughter rumbled from the Empress's throat. "Sam, then. I have come a very long way to see your work." Her gaze shifted to Ember, who had puffed up her tiny chest in what might have been an attempt to look impressive. "This is the child you saved. Fixed her wing is all. Wasn't anything special." The Empress studied Ember's mechanical wing with intense interest. "May I see her fly?" Sam nodded to Ember, who immediately launched herself into the air. She performed a complex routine, diving and climbing, rolling and turning with perfect precision. The artificial wing moved in complete harmony with the natural one, its synthetic membrane flexing and adjusting with every maneuver. When Ember finally landed, the Empress was silent for a long moment. "Remarkable," she said finally. "Our greatest physicians examined this child before she disappeared. They declared her wing beyond repair, her flying days ended. Yet here she soars with grace that exceeds many healthy dragons. Wing was broken. Fixed it," Sam repeated, but he was studying the Empress's damaged wing with a mechanic's eye. The scarring was extensive, but the bone structure was still sound. The real problem was the twisted membrane and the neural damage that had left her with limited control. "I have ruled the Imperium for 800 years," the Empress said quietly. "I have commanded fleets across 1,000 worlds. But I have not truly flown in 3 centuries. Battle wounds from the Zephyr War left me diminished." Sam understood. For a creature built for the sky, being limited to clumsy, painful flight would be worse than being grounded entirely. "Mind if I take a look?" The request was presumptuous beyond belief. Sam was a human mechanic asking to examine the most powerful ruler in the galaxy, like she was a broken machine. By all rights, the Empress should have been offended, possibly fatally so. Instead, she extended her damaged wing. Sam approached carefully, his trained eye taking in the extent of the damage. The burns were old, healed about as well as they ever would. But the wing bone structure was salvageable, and the muscle attachments were still strong. The membrane could be rebuilt and the neural pathways could be rerouted. "This is fixable," he said finally. The Empress's eyes widened. "My court physicians have examined this wing for centuries. They say the damage is too extensive, the scarring too severe. Maybe they're thinking too small," Sam said, running his fingers along the twisted bone. "Sometimes you can't fix something by putting it back the way it was. Sometimes you have to make it better." He was already seeing the solution in his mind, a hybrid design that would reinforce the existing structure while replacing the damaged membrane with an adaptive synthetic alternative. Neural interfaces could bypass the scar tissue, connecting directly to healthy nerve clusters. The mechanical components could be hidden within the natural wing structure, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. You believe you can restore my flight? The Empress's voice carried a note Sam had never heard from someone so powerful. Hope. Can't promise it'll be easy, Sam said. This is more complex than Ember's wing. Gonna need some specialized materials, probably take a few days. But yeah, I think we can get you back in the sky properly. The Empress stared at him for a long moment, then slowly lowered her great head until her forehead touched the workshop floor. It was a gesture of profound respect, one that Sam didn't understand but that made Ember chirp with excitement. Name your price, Samuel Rivers. Wealth, territory, position in my court. What do you desire in exchange for this service? Sam scratched his head, looking around his cluttered workshop. Don't really need anything, Your Majesty. Just let me know what materials you can get hold of, and we'll see about fixing that wing. The Empress raised her head, staring at him with an expression that was entirely unreadable. You would do this simply because it needs doing? Pretty much, yeah. For the second time, that sound that might have been laughter rumbled from the Empress's throat. Perhaps, she said, there is more to humanity than we have given credit for. Sam had worked on complex repairs before, but nothing prepared him for the challenge of rebuilding an Empress's wing. The damage was far worse up close than it had appeared from a distance. 3 centuries of scar tissue had created a maze of hardened membrane and twisted bone. The neural pathways were so damaged that most signals never reached their destination. The Empress lay in the station's main cargo bay, the only space large enough to accommodate her full wingspan. Sam had spent 2 days just mapping the extent of the damage, using medical scanners borrowed from Doc Williams and engineering tools of his own design. Ember perched nearby, watching the proceedings with intense interest. The membrane reconstruction alone should take weeks, Doc Williams said, reviewing Sam's preliminary scans, and that's assuming we can even find compatible synthetic materials. Dragon wing membrane isn't like anything in our medical databases. Sam nodded, but his mind was already working on solutions. He had sent material requests to the Empress's ship, asking for samples of healthy dragon membrane and access to their medical databases. What came back exceeded his wildest expectations. The Draconic Imperium's medical technology was centuries ahead of human science in some areas, but surprisingly primitive in others. They had mastered biological regeneration and genetic manipulation, but their approach to prosthetics was crude. Dragons, it seemed, preferred to heal naturally or not at all. Your people have remarkable materials, Sam told the Empress as he examined a sample of biosynthetic membrane from her ship. But you're using them wrong. This stuff is designed to replace damaged tissue, but you're trying to make it work exactly like the original. Sometimes different is better. The Empress watched him work with patient curiosity. Explain. Sam held up the synthetic membrane, letting light pass through it. Natural dragon wing membrane is strong, but it's also fragile. 1 tear can ground you for weeks. This synthetic stuff is self-repairing and twice as strong. Why make it exactly like the original when you can make it better? Because it would not be natural, the Empress replied. Dragons value the purity of our physical forms, even if that purity keeps you from flying. The question hung in the air between them. Sam returned to his work, measuring and calculating. The wing would need a complete framework rebuild. The existing bones could be reinforced rather than replaced, but the membrane would have to be entirely synthetic. Most complex of all, the neural interface would need to bypass centuries of scar tissue and connect directly to healthy nerve clusters deep within the wing structure. He worked 18-hour days, fabricating components with precision that pushed his equipment to its limits. The Empress's ship provided materials and technical support, but the design work was all Sam's. He was creating something that had never existed before, a hybrid of biological and mechanical engineering that would have to function perfectly on the first try. Ember became his unofficial assistant, carrying small tools and components in her tiny claws. She seemed to understand the importance of the work, staying quiet during delicate procedures and offering encouraging chirps when Sam's frustration showed. On the 3rd day, Dr. Nath arrived from the Imperial ship. She was the Empress's personal physician, a dragon half the size of her ruler but carrying herself with unmistakable authority. She examined Sam's work with skeptical eyes. This approach is highly irregular, she said, studying the synthetic membrane Sam had prepared. You're essentially replacing half the wing with artificial components. Not replacing, Sam corrected. Enhancing. The artificial components will work with the natural structure, not instead of it. Dr. Nath studied the neural interface design with particular interest. These connection points, you're bypassing the traditional nerve pathways entirely. Had to. 3 centuries of scar tissue blocked most of the original routes. But there are healthy nerve clusters deeper in the wing structure. Connect to those and the Empress gets better control than she had before the injury. Better control? Sam pulled up his simulation on the design tablet. The artificial membrane responds faster than natural tissue. The reinforced bone structure is stronger and more flexible. The neural interface provides more precise control. When this is finished, the Empress won't just be healed. She'll be enhanced. Dr. Nath was quiet for a long moment. You realize what you're proposing is heretical by dragon standards? We do not alter our bodies with foreign technology. Then why is she here? The simple question stopped the dragon physician cold. Sam continued working, adjusting the neural interface calibration. Seems to me the Empress values flying more than she values tradition. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come all this way to see a human mechanic. The Empress herself settled the debate that evening. I have lived 3 centuries as half a dragon, she said, her voice carrying across the cargo bay. I will not live 3 more the same way. Proceed with the modifications. The surgery began at dawn on the 4th day. Sam had performed the procedure 100 times in simulation, but working on a living creature was different from working on a machine. Every cut had to be precise, every connection perfect. There would be no second chances. Doc Williams assisted, handling the medical aspects while Sam focused on the engineering. The Empress remained conscious throughout, her breathing steady and controlled. Dragon physiology was remarkably resilient, but the procedure still pushed her to her limits. The neural interface installation was the most delicate part. Sam had to connect dozens of microscopic wires to nerve clusters buried deep in scarred tissue. One wrong move could cause permanent damage. He worked with the steady hands of someone who had spent his life fixing delicate machinery, treating living tissue with the same respect he gave to precision instruments. Hours passed. The synthetic membrane was attached, the bone reinforcements installed, the neural pathways connected. Sam stepped back, exhausted but satisfied. The reconstructed wing looked almost natural, the artificial components seamlessly integrated with the original structure. Now comes the real test, he said quietly. The Empress flexed her wing slowly, testing the connections. The artificial membrane responded instantly, rippling with the same fluid motion as her natural wing. Her eyes widened with surprise and growing excitement. The response time is immediate, she said, wonder creeping into her voice. I can feel every adjustment, every minor correction. The control is better than before? Sam asked. The Empress spread both wings wide, the reconstructed wing moving in perfect synchronization with its natural counterpart. For the first time in 3 centuries, her wingspan was truly complete. Much better, she whispered. Sam smiled, the exhaustion of 4 days' work forgotten, another broken thing fixed, another problem solved. That it happened to be the wing of the most powerful being in the galaxy was just a detail. The important thing was that she could fly again. Ready to test it properly? He asked. The Empress's answer was a roar of joy that shook the entire station. The Empress emerged from Haven's Rest into open space with the grace of a creature born for the void. Sam watched from the station's observation deck as she spread her wings in the starlight, both natural and artificial membranes catching the glow of the distant sun. For a moment, she simply floated there, testing the feel of her reconstructed wing. Then she began to fly. What happened next took Sam's breath away. The Empress didn't just fly. She danced through space with a beauty and power that seemed impossible. Her reconstructed wing moved with fluid precision, responding to her thoughts faster than her natural wing ever could. She performed maneuvers that would have been difficult for a healthy dragon, let alone one recovering from major surgery. Magnificent, Doc Williams breathed, standing beside Sam at the viewport. I've never seen anything like it. The Empress rolled and dove, climbed and turned with growing confidence. The synthetic membrane of her artificial wing gleamed like metal in the starlight, but moved with the same organic flow as living tissue. Sam had designed it to be stronger and more responsive than natural dragon wing membrane, and the enhancement was clearly working. Ember perched on Sam's shoulder, chirping with excitement as she watched the aerial display. The little dragon seemed to understand that she was witnessing something historic. After 3 centuries of limited flight, the Empress was truly free in the sky again. The test flight lasted 2 hours. When the Empress finally returned to the station, her eyes were bright with joy and amazement. She settled in the cargo bay with movements that were more graceful than Sam had seen from her before. "The wing is perfect," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "No, more than perfect. The response time, the strength, the precision of control. I fly better now than I did before my injury." Sam nodded, pleased but not surprised. He had designed the wing to be an improvement, not just a replacement. "How does it feel?" "Like I am truly myself again for the first time in centuries." The Empress flexed her reconstructed wing, watching the synthetic membrane ripple with each movement. "You have given me back more than flight, Samuel Rivers. You have given me back my identity." Word of the successful surgery spread even faster than news of Ember's original healing. Within hours, communication channels across the galaxy were buzzing with reports that the Empress of the Draconic Imperium was flying again. The political implications were staggering. Dragons ruled through aerial superiority. An Empress who could not fly properly was seen as weakened, vulnerable. But an Empress with enhanced flight capabilities was a different matter entirely. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. The first delegations arrived within days. Representatives from the Galactic Federation wanted to understand the implications for interspecies relations. Military observers from a dozen worlds tried to assess whether this represented a new threat. Medical researchers begged for access to Sam's techniques. Sam found himself at the center of a diplomatic storm he never wanted. His workshop became a meeting ground for some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, all trying to understand what he had accomplished and what it might mean for their own interests. "You realize what you've done, don't you?" asked Ambassador Chen from the Federation Diplomatic Corps. "You've fundamentally altered the capabilities of the most powerful ruler in known space. The strategic implications are enormous." Sam was more concerned with the immediate implications for his workload. "Just fixed a broken wing. People keep making it more complicated than it is." But even Sam couldn't ignore the broader changes his work was creating. Dragon medical delegations arrived daily, wanting to learn his techniques. Engineering schools offered him research positions. 3 different governments tried to recruit him for their military programs. The Empress watched all this activity with amused interest. She had taken up residence in Haven's Rest's cargo bay, claiming she needed to monitor her recovery, but clearly enjoying the chaos her presence created. "Your life is about to change significantly. Sam Rivers," she told him one evening as he performed routine maintenance on her wing, "the galaxy will not let you remain a simple mechanic after what you have accomplished." "Don't see why not," Sam replied, checking the neural interface connections. "Wing's working fine, but it'll need regular maintenance like any complex system. Someone needs to understand how it works." "Indeed. Which is why I'm making you my personal physician." Sam looked up from his work. "You're what now?" "You are the only being in the galaxy who understands this technology. Therefore you must come with me to ensure its proper maintenance." The Empress's tone suggested this was not a request. "Can't do that. Station needs a mechanic. The station will receive a new mechanic. I am claiming you under right of imperial need." Sam had no idea what that meant, but it sounded ominous. "Look, Your Majesty, I appreciate the offer, but I like my job. I like fixing things that are broken. Don't need to be anyone's personal anything." The Empress studied him with those ancient gold eyes. "What if I told you that there are thousands of dragons across the Imperium who could benefit from your techniques? Warriors injured in battle, civilians hurt in accidents, children born with wing defects that we cannot repair." That gave Sam pause. He looked at Ember, who was practicing aerial maneuvers around the cargo bay ceiling. The little dragon had gone from helpless and grounded to flying better than most natural dragons. If there were others who could be helped the same way, how many others? He asked. "Hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions. My empire spans 300 worlds, Sam Rivers. We are a people of the sky, but many of us are grounded by injuries we cannot heal." Until now, Sam considered this. He had always believed that if something was broken, you fixed it. If there were that many dragons who needed help, then maybe his responsibility went beyond just maintaining Haven's Rest. But before he could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Helen's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with tension. All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown configuration, unknown intent. The Empress's expression darkened. It seems word of our success has reached some very interested parties. Tell me, Sam Rivers, how committed are you to your simple life? Through the viewport, Sam could see ships materializing around Haven's Rest. Sleek vessels that didn't match any design in his memory. Their hulls were dark and angular, built for stealth and speed rather than cargo or exploration. Who are they? Sam asked. The Empress spread her wings, the synthetic membrane of her reconstructed wing gleaming with warning light. Pirates, mercenaries, or worse. There are those who would kill to possess your knowledge, Sam Rivers. The galaxy just became a much more dangerous place for you. Ember landed on Sam's shoulder, her scales shifting to defensive colors. The little dragon sensed the threat even if she didn't understand it. Sam looked around his workshop at the tools and equipment he had used to create two miracles. His simple life was over, whether he wanted it to be or not. The question now was what he would do with the complicated one that was about to begin. Well, he said finally, guess we better figure out how to deal with this. The Empress showed her teeth in what might have been a smile. Now you begin to understand the true scope of what you have accomplished. The unknown ships held their position around Haven's Rest for 3 tense hours before finally requesting communication. When the channel opened, the face that appeared on the screen was human, but scarred and cold in a way that made Sam's skin crawl. Haven's Rest, this is Captain Morris of the Free Companies. We're here for the mechanic and his dragon technology. Surrender them peacefully and no one gets hurt. Helen's voice was steady despite the threat. This is a civilian mining station under Federation protection. You have no authority here. Captain Morris laughed, a sound without humor. Federation protection is 3 days away at best. We're here now. You have 1 hour to decide. The communication cut off, leaving the station in heavy silence. Sam looked around the cargo bay where the Empress waited. Her wings spread in a posture of barely controlled aggression. Ember had taken refuge on his shoulder, pressing close against his neck. The Free Companies are mercenaries and pirates, the Empress explained, her voice rumbling with anger. They sell their services to whoever pays best. Someone wants your technology badly enough to hire them. What do they want with dragon wing repair? Sam asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Military applications, enhanced flight capabilities for dragon warriors, prosthetic weapons systems. They see dollar signs, not healing. The Empress's eyes glowed with inner fire. They will not have it. What happened next changed the course of galactic history. The Empress launched herself from the cargo bay with a roar that shook the station's hull. Her reconstructed wing moved with perfect precision as she accelerated toward the nearest mercenary ship. But instead of attacking directly, she began to fly in complex patterns around the enemy vessels. Sam watched in amazement as the Empress demonstrated capabilities that went far beyond anything dragons had shown before. Her enhanced wing allowed maneuvers that should have been impossible. Flight patterns that confused targeting systems and sensor arrays. She was using her prosthetic as a tactical advantage. The mercenary ships tried to track her movements, but the Empress was too fast, too unpredictable. Her synthetic wing membrane could adjust its aerodynamic properties in real time, allowing sudden changes in direction that left pursuing fighters scrambling to compensate. She's not just flying, Doc Williams said in wonder. She's demonstrating what enhanced dragons could do in combat. The message was clear. If the Free Companies wanted a fight, they would be facing an opponent unlike anything they had ever encountered. The enhanced dragon wasn't just healed. She was superior to anything that had come before. Captain Morris appeared on the communication screen again, his scarred face showing the first signs of uncertainty. Impressive display, Your Majesty. But one dragon can't take on an entire fleet. Perhaps not, the Empress replied, her voice carrying across the communication channel. But I am not alone. That was when the Imperial fleet arrived. Ships materialized out of hyperspace with the coordinated precision of a military force. Dozens of them ranging from fast attack fighters to massive dreadnoughts. The Imperial Draconic fleet had come to protect their Empress, and they brought enough firepower to reduce Haven's Rest and the mercenary ships to cosmic dust. But the Empress raised one wing, a signal for her fleet to hold position. Captain Morris, you have a choice. Withdraw now and face no consequences, or learn what happens to those who threaten the Draconic Imperium. The mercenary captain was many things, but he wasn't stupid. Faced with the entire Imperial fleet, The free companies had no choice but to retreat. They jumped to hyperspace within minutes, leaving Haven's Rest in the protective embrace of Dragon warships. But the real negotiations were just beginning. You have placed yourself in danger simply by helping me, the Empress told Sam as her fleet secured the area. There will be others who want your technology. Governments, corporations, criminal organizations. Your knowledge is now a strategic resource. Sam had been thinking the same thing. His simple act of kindness had created a situation that was rapidly spiraling beyond his control. So what do you suggest? Come with me. Accept a position in my court as chief medical engineer. Help heal the dragons of my empire and I will ensure your protection. It was tempting. The Empress was offering safety, resources, and the chance to help thousands of injured dragons. But Sam had spent his whole life as an independent mechanic, fixing things on his own terms. What if I had a different idea? He said slowly. The Empress tilted her great head, listening. What if instead of me joining your empire, we created something new, a medical research station, jointly funded by the Draconic Imperium and the Human Federation, a place where doctors and engineers from both species could learn these techniques and improve on them. The proposal was ambitious beyond anything Sam had ever imagined. A collaborative facility where human ingenuity could combine with dragon resources to create medical advances that neither species could achieve alone. You would teach others your techniques? The Empress asked. That's the point. Right now I'm the only one who knows how to do this. If something happens to me, the knowledge dies. But if we train others, if we create a real medical program, then this technology can help beings across the galaxy. The Empress was quiet for a long moment, considering. Such a facility would require significant resources, advanced medical equipment, research laboratories, training facilities. The cost would be enormous, but think of the benefits. Enhanced prosthetics for injured dragons, new treatments for wing diseases, maybe even applications for other species who have lost the ability to fly. Ember chirped enthusiastically from Sam's shoulder, as if voting in favor of the proposal. The little dragon had become the first success story of interspecies medical cooperation, and she seemed eager to help create more. The political implications would be significant, the Empress said thoughtfully. A joint human-dragon medical facility would represent unprecedented cooperation between our species. Maybe it's time for unprecedented cooperation, Sam replied. Universe is big enough for all of us to share. 3 months later, construction began on the Aurora Medical Research Station at the edge of human space. The facility was funded jointly by the Draconic Imperium and the Human Federation, with additional support from a dozen other species who saw the potential benefits. Sam found himself in the unexpected position of Chief of Prosthetic Engineering, overseeing a team of doctors and engineers from across the galaxy. His workshop had grown into a sophisticated medical facility, but the basic principle remained the same. When something was broken, you fixed it. Ember had become the station's unofficial mascot, demonstrating the possibilities of enhanced prosthetics to visiting delegations. Her perfect integration of biological and mechanical systems served as proof that the technology could work for any species willing to embrace enhancement over pure restoration. The Empress visited regularly, both as a patient requiring maintenance and as a political ally, ensuring the station's protection. Her enhanced wing had become legendary throughout the galaxy, inspiring a new generation of warriors and civilians alike. But perhaps most importantly, the Aurora Station represented something new in galactic relations. For the first time, species were working together not for conquest or trade, but for the simple goal of healing. Human determination combined with dragon resources and the ingenuity of dozens of other species to create medical advances that benefited everyone. Sam still spent his days fixing broken wings, but now he did it in a fully equipped medical facility, with assistance from a dozen different worlds. The work was more complex, the patients more varied, but the satisfaction remained the same. Every time a grounded dragon took flight again, every time an injured bird-like alien soared once more, Sam felt the same quiet pride he had experienced watching Ember's first flight with her steel wing. The universe was full of broken things, but with enough determination and the right tools, almost anything could be fixed. And sometimes, in the process of fixing what was broken, you created something better than what had been there before. The little dragon with the steel wing had changed the galaxy, one repair at a time.